Hey everybody, welcome back to my challenging channel. Today is August the 16th of 2023. Yesterday, I was going through a second day of having a pretty intense headache, one that I almost couldn't really believe I was having. It was so severe that I had a few bouts of nausea where I literally had to retch like I was heaving, and that might be too much information for such a general topic, I guess. I don't know how else to say that. I do know that as I speak into this device and share these thoughts, that there are a number of people who are going through journeys, and all of us seem to be going through our own challenging journeys, whether it happens to be with communicating with loved ones, either now or in the beyond, or maybe communicating with anyone in general. Sometimes it's hard just to describe how we're feeling to other people, because other people may not have the same perspective, and they may not be able to even have compassion if they haven't gone through the same things. Just as and this is a random example that came to mind the moment that I was saying this, but just as a random example, think about from my country, think about the migrant children who are trying to come across the border with their parents. And think about how some families were separated and children were divided from their families. And that was all done in the name of control, not necessarily in the name of compassion, just like putting barricades across a river and trapping people in certain locations may not seem to be coming from a place of compassion. It's not to say whether it's wrong or right. It's just an idea that we know what it might be like to have been mistreated, some of us. And so because of that, we reflect on the mistreatment of others, and we try to speak up, and we oftentimes try to do the right thing. That's why a lot of us have succeeded in business, where we've climbed, we've elevated ourselves among our counterparts to upper level echelons, and people look to us for that guidance. The only thing is, when we're working so hard for someone else's dreams, to build someone else's dreams, it becomes almost like we're burning the candle at both ends. At least that's a saying here. I'm not sure where it originated. I just know I've heard it, and that's basically it's imagine a candle and burning it from both ends. That shortens the lifespan. Might make things a little brighter. I think that there was a Def Leppard song that talked about that, and Kurt Cobain quote, supposedly, it's better to burn out than fade away. These are thoughts, and how we resonate with one another is something that's sometimes challenging, just as challenging as doing our daily activities. Today, for the first time in a few days, I woke up without a massive headache, and since I felt capable, the first thing I did was get dressed and go out for a run. Before I talk about that story, I want to tell you, today was also one of the first days where I remembered a snippet of a dream. And many channels don't really, or people, I should say, don't really talk about dreams. We can hardly remember what we did during the day, so how can we remember our dreams, right? But today I had a dream, and in it were my grandfather, my father, and my grandmother, all from the same side. And in my dreams, I don't recognize when people who are passed away are in my dreams, I don't really remember that I'm in a dream. But today, at the end, when I saw my grandmother and she was talking to me, not only was she speaking to me in English, which she didn't generally speak in English, she also was asking me if I was dressed yet. And I told her I wasn't dressed. In the dream, I believed I was dressing for a specific event. Both of my grandparents are passed away, by the way. And the event that I was dressing for was something that I generally wouldn't have had the right clothes for. You know, I'm typically a t-shirt kind of guy, and I enjoy life that way. The clothes are just illusions, appearances, and sometimes in general society, we are asked to keep up appearances. With all of that in mind, today when I woke up thinking these things, I went and wrote that in my dream journal because I'm trying to practice recalling my dreams just to sharpen my memory. And as I wrote that in the dream journal, I also started thinking, you know, I wonder if it was just an idea. Am I dressed yet? So I could get up and get the day started. And so I was putting on my running shoes. I went out for a run. I only went 2 miles, 2.04 miles. And I say I only went 2.04 miles. That's a major accomplishment. I haven't run. I can't tell you when the last time was that I ran, but I believe it was last week. And I was not running daily as I had been for almost several months. And even that running journey has only been a 6-month journey. I physically wasn't able to run in the past. And I got to a point where, as I said, for the past couple of days, I was having a massive headache that was preventing me from feeling like doing much of anything, except for sometimes occasionally jumping up, running to the toilet, thinking I was about to puke. And today when I woke up feeling good, I remembered my dream, and I thought about it. And the moment that I thought, wow, I feel good enough, I decided to put in the physical effort. And this was before the sun came up. I actually went for a run before the sun came up, and it felt good. You know, it felt like I was doing something that I was supposed to do to address myself. And as I was talking about earlier, in a lot of cases, the first things that I would do when I would wake up would be to get ready to go to work. And in that work that I did, it was mentally taxing. And the mentally taxing work was oftentimes because we were participating as a group in efforts to work on an infrastructure for a business. And, you know, code and computers and all that stuff are things that, although I'm good at it, you can look around me in the general vicinity where I'm at, and you can see a picture over my shoulder of a cactus flower. And that picture is from Big Bend National Park. And you can see a picture over here over my other shoulder of a bison at a river. You can see a couple of guitars if you look really close throughout this picture. For those of you who are watching this, remember, you can also use your smart TV and your smart devices to watch YouTube on television. That's one of my favorite ways to have begun the healing process. The healing process starts mentally. You know, if we can't imagine it, we certainly can't get around to getting to that point where something is going to be resolved. So no matter what our circumstances, and many of us are starting out at many different points in our journey with a new level of awareness, wherever we're at in the journey, the fact is that we are sometimes being slowed down to have conversations with one another that maybe we wouldn't have had otherwise. So these are just thoughts, you know, as we're going through the system and we're looking at people face to face and talking with them and recognizing whether or not they're paying attention to what we're saying. with all of this in mind, yesterday itself, I wrote a poem, a song, and I'm going to show you. It says, it's basically called Flaming Yawn, and you can see the date, August 15th, Flaming Yawn. What does that mean? Well, I wanted to write a kind of a punny song, you know, if you're into puns, and for some reason the word filet mignon came to mind. I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced accurately, but a filet mignon sounds a little bit like flaming yawn. And however we take words, what I was trying to conjure when I selected the words flaming yawn was that, imagine you told someone how you were feeling. You know, a lot of people have asked how I've been feeling. A lot of people have asked how I have been feeling recently. And I've explained to them, you know, I'm feeling a little bit concerned about the things going on around us, about our own health, about the state of even my own family. With everything in mind, it's like there's only a few things that I can even begin to interact with, and that would be the people who continue to interact with me. And so as I really started to lock down the regaining of my own health, I started to try and verbalize with people whether or not we were having a full conversation. Some people will hear one thing and a percentage of what someone's saying, and then they won't hear anything else because they've made up their mind. You know, some people will hear that someone is leaning towards one party or another party. Maybe someone likes cactus flowers more than bison. Maybe someone likes bison more than cactus flower. Maybe someone doesn't like the knife that's on display in the background here. And they might have made a decision. Maybe they don't like yellow. Maybe they do like yellow. Whatever the case, the way we dismiss one another easily sometimes, especially when we're being slowed down to talk with one another, is something that just comes from not being aware. And to be aware, sometimes we need to be able to focus and concentrate. And there are people who cannot focus because, well, some of our opportunities to focus have been eroded. In a lot of cases, when we look at the side effects of prescriptions, for an example, if we really pay attention to the writing on the package and we look at it, it may be a little bit daunting. It may be that we find out that sometimes all of these prescription medications generally might be masking some symptoms to an underlying root cause that we might want to talk about. And so yesterday I wanted to talk about a subject with people, and some people continue to miss base with me, and then there's some people who actually touch base with me and resonate in ways that are overwhelming and profound. And so I want to say that since I wrote this yesterday, as I was basically trying to break my headache, which I did, I don't know what it's going to mean to you, the viewer, and I also don't know who's comfortable being named. And so I try to be as general as possible. I try to use my words carefully, and I also try to be very specific when there are certain people who are in my own proximity who are doing certain things. It causes me to call these subjects out publicly because of some of the things that have happened in my past. And so in this way, I'm basically able to cover the bases and provide a video log of what exactly I'm going through. Who knows if YouTube is around in a few decades, and I'm lucky enough to live that much longer, I might just go back and look, what was I doing at that time? Well, today itself, I was able to run 2 miles, over 2 miles at a pretty slow pace, 14-minute miles, and with a lot of hills, and I felt capable. I felt capable of doing it again, if only I wake up not feeling so bad. So pain is one of those things that incrementally can get worse and worse, and while it's at its pinnacle, those are the times we start to think about food, eating, and that brings up the topic of this song, Filet Mignon. I'm going to read you the poem, and I hope that you understand what it means. Another house burned down this time. It's a flaming yawn. Another topic our fathers refused to address. Chew on the bite in the mirror and tell me now what you see. We're all just playing a part, and it's down to you and me. Here in the South, it's just another hot, normal day. At least it seems that way to those who don't care. We feed the demon everything, even the ones we love. Some ask me, why should we care unless it comes from above? They use the books to justify all the things we do. Big Brother becomes the bully again. The 100th day at 100 now, most of the plants have died. Perhaps another t-shirt can put out the fires. It's when we reach the most and find that there's no one's there, that's when we find we have to do these things ourselves. If one of us finds ourselves in the line of fire, tell me, do you think the other might care? I pray the Lord, my Father, for peace in times of despair, and hope he'll tell me it'll be all right. I told another my family's house burned down, and that my dad, he lit the fire. The way that this song goes, I'm going to, all of these are the verses in the song, and they're going to start and end with another house burned down this time. It's a flaming yawn. Another topic our fathers refused to address. Chew on the bite in the mirror and tell me now what you see. We're all just playing a part, and it's down to you and me. So the first and last verse talks about houses burning down. If you know anything about the topics that are going on globally, there were many houses that burned down and unfortunately many lives that were lost. And one of the snippets that I saw, I don't generally read the articles. Sometimes I pull up the news, 3 news lines, local and a more generalized news line, just to see the headlines. And what I'm looking for specifically is nature and the things that are happening in nature. And there are a lot of clues in the news that are talking about some of the woes of nature. And for some reason, recently, there were some comments about our president not making any kind of a response to the situation that was going on with the fire that is the one that's being talked about right now. A couple of years ago, I got to drive the west side of the United States, and I saw a lot of the fires, the wildfires that are here in the, what would you call it, the continental U.S.? I don't really know. But on the island that had the fires recently, that was probably just as heartbreaking to see and to understand. It's not just us, as a humanity that are suffering through these situations, these challenges. I call this channel a challenging channel because I talk about challenging subjects, and they're all to me tied together. And that's why in the first verse, it's talking about a house burned down. This time it's just a flaming yawn. Well, the truth is that recently I had a direct relative also have a house fire. I told another my family's house burned down and that my dad, he lit the fire. Now, again, I try not to single anybody out, but literally, I did have a direct family member set fire to their home. And I told another, in my song, it's kind of worded in a way that sounds a little bit like that, but slightly different. And it was just a flaming yawn. There was no real compassion, the empathy that goes with the subject material wasn't there. And so sometimes I believe that I have physical pain because I don't know how to release the toxins efficiently. Running, I'll tell you what, doing physical activity that we did as children of our parents, children of the Creator, those things were things that we were given as capabilities, if we were fortunate enough to be given those capabilities. And over time, we begin to sometimes lose those capabilities. And so it becomes an important topic when people's mental health, physical health, spiritual health begins to slip. It becomes an important topic to discuss because some people can literally burn down the house and do destructive things around them that don't help the situation. So if I woke up and I had a massive headache and there was a cleanup that needed to happen because of this fire, I wouldn't be able to contribute the same, and that would make me feel doubly ill. Here in the South, it's just another hot normal day. At least it seems that way to those who don't care. It's been 100 degrees plus for about 3 months now, and this is unusual. Last year, here where I live, and I'm 46 years old, and last year, the same thing happened, maybe not for 3 months straight, but for more than 3 weeks in a row, we had at least 100-degree temperatures. And it was so dry that for the first time, I wasn't able to produce any vegetables in my garden. And that's not necessarily uncommon. Sometimes cyclically we will have drought. Sometimes that is the case. And usually it's for a period of time. But what's happening this particular time and over these past few years here in the South, it's just another hot normal day, except there are not as many bats in the air, not as many bats flying at night, because there are not as many insects. There are not as many owls perusing the neighborhoods because there are not as many rodents. And I've noticed that the nocturnal critters that are able to persist, like the opossums and the raccoons, and all of the things that are pretty much persisting, are sometimes coming out during the day to feed and to find food because at night there wasn't enough. And so all these things that we're seeing are not quite normal. So here in the South, it's another hot normal day. At least it seems that way to those who don't care. We feed the demon everything, even the ones we love. Some ask me, why should we care unless it comes from above? Unless it comes from above, I meant that as an order, unless we heard it on television as something that was important. Like for an example, we all need to buy, certain accessories so that we can prevent new things from happening. And those accessories are oftentimes things that are accessories to masking the symptom. They use the books to justify all the things we do. Big Brother becomes the bully again. The 100th day at 100 now, most of the plants have died. Perhaps another t-shirt can put out the fires. In the song, I believe I might say teacher, but recently this was a topic. It was a topic that I asked someone who has discussed these anomalies with me. And they discussed it with me because actually I received a t-shirt from them. And it was quite, I'm thrilled, that I received anything from anybody. And I appreciate it. And the t-shirt was a little bit different from the style that I typically would have on. but it came in a beautiful color. And it had some words on it that pointed me to a site that talked about how we needed to avoid utilizing big business to accomplish our strategy, to accomplish our tasks. The funny thing is, the t-shirt was made by a big business. And so that's where this line, perhaps another t-shirt can put out the fires, ties in. So I hope that part makes sense to whoever it's meant for. It's when we reach out the most and find that there's no one there, that's when we find we have to do things by ourselves. If one of us finds ourselves in the line of fire, tell me, do you think the other might care? Before my direct relative set fire to my grandparents' house, I told many people, I asked for help all across the board. And as some have found out in our medical industry, there is no coverage for help that would actually be preventative maintenance. The only thing that we can do, the best we can do, is help ourselves to become better. And what's left over is addiction. You know, if we continue to go to the same fast food joints, for an example, and eat the same thing, we may not have any kind of different results than anyone else who's struggling through these very same experiences right now. I pray the Lord my Father for peace in times of despair and hope he'll tell me it'll be all right. In this, I span the thought across two different types of leadership. I pray the Lord my Father for peace in times of despair and hope he'll tell me it'll be all right. I told another, my family's house burned down and that my dad, he lit the fire. So I pray to our Father, asking for peace, and my own father, he didn't quite create peace immediately. He he lit the fire. He burned down my grandfather's and grandmother's home. He burned down what was to be left to him. And then, inevitably, he burned down what was to be left to me. The worst part about all of that wasn't all of that. You know, I knew there was an illness going on. It helped. It helped for treatment to eventually come around. It helped that he wasn't charged criminally for what he did. But the funny thing is that the former mayor of the small town where my father lived and lives again now, the former mayor helped to bilk my father out of the property that was rightfully his. So there was a song that came out, try that in a small town, or try this in a small town, or whatever. A lot of people got offended by it. Perspective is really the only thing that has anything to do with how we take certain things that are said. A lot of us can joke around about many things and find that we might insult somebody because we were joking around about something that other people can't take for granted. They might not have the they might not be on the they might be on the short end of the stick when it comes to joke telling. So we don't know everything. You know, our perspectives are very limited, especially when we're not talking with one another. But our perspectives are infinitely limited to the point of blindness, blinders. When somebody does not have the compassion and wherewithal to hear what we're saying and to understand that we're suffering and to say, hey, brother, peace be with you. I understand. I understand you're going through some things that I can't understand. You know, I don't have that perspective of what it's like to go through that type of injury and that level of pain and that level of withdrawals. I don't know what it's like specifically, but I do know what it's like when when any one of us are feeling pain. And I do know what it's like when it comes time to hear what somebody's saying and to encourage us to move past those obstacles by really focusing on the inner workings that we can accomplish during the course of time. So as we face these latter days, and they all are, no matter whether we were born today or 46 years ago, like I was saying in another video, whether that guitar is brand new or 46 years old, how we handle it is how it will resonate throughout time. So we have opportunities to do some constructive things. You can see I started writing in one ink and it ran out. I had a backup plan. Every time I've needed something, I've been right in the proximity to what it is that I've needed. And when my pen ran out, I had another pen. It was a different color, possibly for a reason, to make a point. We're in a specific room. I'm showing a contrasting color. And I'm telling a story. I'm telling a story because somebody wrote to me today something that was insightful. And just as they had told me, you know, it could be that we've been talking with therapists, counselors, could be that we've been taking medication for eons, but that's nothing compared to talking with one another, and helping each other to become inspired, to find out what the heck comes next, you know? It's not as daunting as we can feel it might be unless we're playing catch up. And sometimes when we're playing catch up, the downsizing is appropriate. Once we downsize and get to the point where it's like, this is what makes me tick, that's when we can achieve what it is that we were here to achieve, in addition to all of the other marvelous things that we've achieved in the past. So without taking it for granted, let's chew on this bite in the mirror and tell each other what we see. In my perspective, I think we're all just playing a part, and it's down to you and me. I hope that you guys stay tuned until I actually record this song. I might even record it right now and add it to the very end of this video, just to have a kind of a quick demo. I attempted to record this earlier. This was before I got my letter from the person that wrote to me. Thank you so much, by the way. This all of what I started. I even started to record the song before I got this letter. I started to record the lyrics, and then, believe it or not, and you can see a guitar up on a hand here. One of the guitars, the guitar I was playing, I put back on its grip, on its hand, and the hand is shaped just slightly different from all of the other grips. And the guitar fell out of the hand, crashed down, causing me to stop. And that caused me to address the situation. I had some different hands and different configurations, so I moved some things around. And now I believe all of the hardware is secure and back in order immediately. As soon as the problem happened, I resolved it as best as I could with the things that I have on tap. And now the only thing I have left is to put some pleasing lyrics, some pleasing sounding lyrics to this melody. But for the purpose of knowing that this is a demo, if I present this song right after this video, please be forgiving in terms of how you hear the words, and understand that, again, I'm doing this as a release. It's a release, it's creativity. I'm doing this to help other people to learn how to release those pains, those toxins as well. And sometimes if we can constructively hear one another and then compassionately critique one another, we can also find ways to course correct, especially through our own blind spots. I have plenty. So without any kind of input from anyone else, I'm never going to be able to accurately track those blind spots. They're blind spots. So in today's era, when we have things like Bliss for vehicles, blind spot indicator system, something or another's, when we have these types of technologies, and with the advent of, with the introduction of the concept of artificial intelligence, let's get back to thinking about our natural intelligence and how things are supposed to be brought to order. Generally, peaceful is the most effective. And so actively trying to burn down something, destructive actions, in other words, are typically things that we would want to mitigate. And if we want to mitigate those things, we have to be able to talk about the elephant in the room. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. Peace, love, and all that old school stuff. Stay tuned, because I believe I'm going to record the lyrics and put the song right here.
Another house burned down, this time it's a Filet Mignon. Another topic our fathers refuse to address. Chew on the bite in the mirror and tell me now, what do you see? We're all just playing apartments down to you and me. Here in the South, it's just another hot, normal day. At least it seems that way to those who don't care. We feed the demon everything, even the ones we love. Some ask me, why should we care unless it comes from above? They use the books to justify all the things we do. Big Brother becomes the bully again. The 100th day at 100 now, many plants have died. Perhaps another t-shirt can put out the fires. It's when we reach out the most and find that there's no one there. That's when we find we have to do the things by ourselves. If one of us finds ourselves in the line of fire, tell me, do you think the other might care? I pray the Lord, my Father, for peace in these times of despair, and hope you'll tell me you'll be alright. I told another my family's house burned down, and that my dad, he lit the fire. Another house burned down, this time it's a Filet Mignon. Another topic our fathers refuse to address. Chew on the bite in the mirror and tell me now, what do you see? We're all just playing them hard and it's down to you and me. I pray the Lord my Father for peace in these times of despair, and hope you'll tell me it'll be alright. Another house burned down this time, it's a flaming yawn. Another topic our fathers refuse to address. Chew on the bite in the mirror and tell me now, what do you see? We're all just playing a part and it's down to you and